Welcome back to another episode of the Dutchy and Swoop Show. Lots to talk about. Collingwood come off a 6-point loss to the Suns. Mate, how you going?
Good, mate. I'm going pretty well.
Yeah.
Pretty good going pretty well for a Collingwood loss, actually. It was a
Feels
good
like
loss. A lot of people have been smashing me on the social media and getting a few nasty texts coming through, but this is probably the happiest I've been after a loss, I must admit.
I feel that. I think the consensus sort of going forward, the last few weeks, everyone was sort of, or Collingwood supporters I was talking to were like, this might be the one that we drop. It'll be okay. We're not going to play it people's first again. And to drop it in the way that we did, like we'll talk in depth about the game in a second, but to play a quarter and a half of football, 40 points down and nearly win the game.
Yeah.
That says a lot about where the players are at.
Yeah. Hey, look, you go up there, like you got to consider all things. I mean, Gold Coast never played finals before. They only lost 2 games up there for the whole year, 1 or 2 games. 2 games, I think, for the whole year. Lost 1 this year, which was to Fremantle. Ironically, we play them next week, which is a huge win up there. But it's different conditions, as you know. Like we play better on a bigger ground. It's a little bit slippery. So we spoke to Beamsy, didn't we, last week about the slippery balls and how they used to practice with the soapy balls. It is slightly different. It takes you a while to adjust. And sometimes in those type of conditions, it's really easy to go, geez, this isn't going to be our day. I'm trying. Oh, this is all too hard. And then the opposition just runs away with it. It was a little bit the opposite with us. It was like, hang on, what's going on here? We need to fix a few things. He saw Fly with his giving direction. He was very assertive at half time and very sure about what he wanted and what he needed from the playing group. And they come out and, Pendlebury made a difference, didn't he, when he came onto the ground directing traffic as well. So, but just to push right through to the end and probably nearly should have won it in the end, that's enough for me. As long as we've still got top spot, I'm happy enough with that loss.
That's exactly it. Like at that point, we were 2.5 games up. So we're only a game and a half now. Mychek and Lipinski are managed. We know that there was, this is not making excuses, a loss is a loss, but there was a flu for the last 2 or 3 weeks around the club, and Lipinski was close to not playing the week prior. So he gets rested because, of whatever he's going on. And Brody Mychek is a talisman up forward. Then you have to play Mason Cox as that second ruck. And Mason didn't even kick a goal. Played great around the ground, taking good marks and stuff. I'm pretty sure the stats said he didn't even have a kick for the game. Just kept handballing it off.
Well, he took 6 marks, though. 2 really nice contested marks in the first half.
Pretty well.
19 hit-outs. And I think we were even in hit-outs for the first time nearly all year with him in the side. So
Cox does help the team. Just need to see him doing a little bit more up forward because, we talk about it all the time. Big frame, big body. He can take a good mark. Just need to see him sort of finish it off a little bit, especially in a game like this where you want to be kicking to him and where you've also kicked 0 goals 10 before you've kicked a goal. What were you thinking at halftime when didn't have
I was just thinking, they hit the post a couple of times there and it just felt like this isn't going to be our night. Like, it looks like we're trying hard for no result. Everything that we did, it seemed forced. And even when we finally got some good looks, we had, like Hoskin Elliott took a mark inside. I think it was our 8th or 9th point. And I'm thinking, this bloke never misses. He's one bloke you can rely on in front of goals. And if he's missing goals, it's not your night. So that was the way I sort of read it early. And, you look at it, that was their grand final up there. They've built it up in the media, built it up. Hardwick's a great coach, as you know. He would have built it up in the playing group. We win this, boys. This injects life right into our season, gives us a chance to play finals for the first time at this club. Absolute. I don't even know who they're playing this week, but they will lose. Absolute guarantee. So if you're a betting person, which I'm not, go and put some money on whoever. I don't even know who they're playing. I'm assuming they're playing away. Yeah. And they're just going, we beat Collingwood. How good are we?
Yeah, they sold all their tickets.
All their young kids are going, how good are we? We beat the Pies, blah, blah, blah. Now they've got to travel away. The next team's ready for them. They're going to be 5-10% off each one of those young, inexperienced players. Absolute guarantee. Or I could be completely wrong, and they just keep rolling with confidence. Who are they playing, by the way?
Let's see who they play. So
they're probly playing West Coast.
It's actually a good round, this round, but they play not West Coast. They play Adelaide, in Adelaide.
Yeah, mate, Adelaide by 10 goals. I'm telling you, it's an absolute Monty. We've just bruised and battered them, and mentally they've given, and physically they've given everything that they've got. They don't have anything left for probably another 2 or 3 weeks,
Yeah.
I reckon.
So that's actually it's a pretty interesting thing to say. Like mainly because they were up by like we said 40 points or so, and at the end of the game people are like, oh, it's the maturity of Gold Coast. That old Gold Coast would have lost that.
Yeah.
But when you look at it, that second half, we beat them by 5 or 6 goals in that second half.
Yeah.
With the way we were playing, it was all Collingwood.
Yeah.
It was all Collingwood after half time. Obviously, they
went into defensive mode a little bit.
Yeah, that's what I mean. They were trying to
that's what
stop
happens.
the game.
We're going for broke.
Yep.
We're pretty footy mode, trying any way which possible to score.
Yeah.
And score quickly. But still, I think the boys were still good at picking the right play to score. That's why it's a mature group when you look at it. They've got so many players out. They're going up there. Like it has to be close to the toughest away trip, interstate trip at the moment. You know, with the humidity and just the size of the ground and the way that they play, they're just so strong around the footy, aren't they? But it's maturity to come back and they kick 8 goals in the second half, and probably looked like they were just going to sail over the top. If they had found a way in that last centre bounce or, second last centre bounce just to try and kill it a little bit and make it a shit fight, it could have been a different story.
And I think the thing that got us in that first half was how quick the Suns were in transition off the back. We just looked half a step, maybe not even too slow, just half a step off. Like their mentality was that they were still on the sort of airplane coming into holiday mode. But I want to talk to you about the midfield mix at the moment. We talk a lot about, and everyone talks a lot about Ned Long and Tom Mitchell. At one point in the game, Long, Mitchell, and Sidebottom were in the middle. Probably the slowest mix that you can have, and that was when Nick Daicos, he did his ankle really early on, and you can see that sort of holding him back for that game, and he was a half step off as well. I think
the only thing with that on the weekend, you've got Rao in the middle, Miller goes in there, Anderson.
Yep.
Well, Anderson covers ground, but he's not super duper quick off the mark. Could be wrong, but he looks more like he covers ground once he gets going, but smart and reacts to the play quite quick. Rao's sort of dynamic in tight, but he's not super quick on the outside. As well, so maybe they were looking for those harder bodies because they're good at getting with wits, first hands at ground level, feeding it to their runners and going. Sometimes it's just about taking away their hit to advantage away, stifling their ability to win at first and then on the way out. So they're not dangerous on the way out. So maybe that's what they were trying to do with Mitchell, Long, and Sidebottom. At least they're harder bodies in there potentially because. So I think it's a bit different story on the MCG. You probably need one inside mid who can get inside to out quite quick. And they probably wouldn't do that on the MCG. But they were, I think, in the end, what were they? Plus 15 in clearances overall, and they were right on top early, weren't they? So
they were. And most of their clearance work came from around the ground clearances, where we typically are a little bit better at. Yeah. So we did drop our colours, and the best thing about a loss like this after 8 straight wins is that we're not papering over any sort of cracks anymore. They're going, okay, this is where we got beat. Yeah. Sure, it won't happen at People's First again, but we can improve here. We've got Bo McCreary to come back, Bobby Hill, inject that speed into the side, because we did look a little on our back foot. But talking about clearances, I want you to run me through one of the last clearances of the game, which was that Noah Anderson.
Yes.
And there's been a bit of talk about Nick Daicos and Noah Anderson in that middle. Noah Anderson gets the 1-2, captain's goal. Great for them. Yeah. Didn't look too good for us, but it looked like at that point we're trying to win the game. It looks like we were set up to read a Cameron tap and go on and sort of take that through. And we're not here talking about that if that happens.
Yeah, the one thing is when you set up with centre bounces, you need, generally speaking, you got one guy who's receiving the footy, you hit 2, and then the other 2, you just got to have strong balance around the stoppage. I think what it looked like to me is Noah Anderson was on Daicos, sort of at that 12 o'clock sort of region, and he was going to be the hit 2. And the coverage was going to be Josh. If Josh, was able to get to Anderson, put a bit of body and check the body on the way through and swap over, because they knew that Anderson was going to take off, which would leave Daicos free. Which is okay. I would have been more inclined to just, go maybe Daicos, maybe Josh goes to Anderson because he's a stronger body, push him into the congestion, and then maybe get Nick on the fly from the sweeping position and pushing
Yep.
through on the fly. And so we just cover off body work on the guys that are most likely to win that. Yeah, look, everyone at the moment is talking about how good Josh was in the last quarter. He was unbelievable.
Yeah.
It was one of the best
Fantastic.
ranking,
100%.
super coach ranking points
Yep.
quarters in the history of the game. How awesome was that? But the one thing that is telling is when you're not practicing enough of those stoppages, it only takes one. And that one, look, he helped us get into the game. Without him there, maybe we would have been 3 or 4 goals behind.
Yeah, definitely. Yep.
But at the end, where it broke down is maybe it was just a touch off in terms of what the role looked like in that last centre bounce. So interesting. You said you'd been practicing stoppage work this week. Is that right?
Yeah. So whenever I go to training, he's always with the defenders, halfback line, et cetera, et cetera. On Tuesday's training session, which is one of 2 main sessions, he was pretty much training with the mids and just around Cameron and at his feet and stuff like that. And I think he will be a secret weapon. And Matthew Lloyd saying that he could be top 5 best midfielders in the game if he goes into the midfield. And then that's why we've recruited Dan Houston. Yeah. Dan Houston goes into Josh Daicos' spot at halfback. Or like you suggested, Nick Daicos.
Yeah, look, I've been saying this for a while because Nick's elite player in any position. You put him forward, forward pocket, he's probably get a 40-goal kicker. Put him on the wing, he's still going to get you 30 touches. Put him in the middle, 30 touches, 8 clearances, whatever you like. Halfback, he racks them up even more so at halfback because he's hard to contain with that straight line running with the game in front of him. But he's not a big body like we've spoken about, and there's going to be times when you come up against Rowell and guys like this, he can't push those guys around. Like, he really struggled at times during that game because of the strength of their midfield in tight. And, if he's not able to get to the outside and do his work, we need to win it in tight first. But the one thing that I would do, I wanted him to play a portion halfback and middle. That's how I would coach him. I think now it's a perfect opportunity to go, why doesn't Nick and Josh share the role?
I love that.
One plays inside, one plays out. And depending on who they've got in the middle, they might go, they're 3 big bodies. Josh comes in. Josh is not a big guy either, but he's slightly bigger and a bit more strength to move the body and get to position. So they can play around with it. And even in live play, they could go, you go back, I'll go middle. And then next thing you know, if he's getting tagged, Nick's getting tagged, he goes to half back, and all of a sudden it throws the opposition forward structure out as well. So there's some things you can play around with there. And Nick's become a sitting duck a lot of times when he gets tagged. I know he's been able to reduce the tag out to minimal possessions. But, we probably haven't protected him off the ball enough, and we probably haven't protected him to move into different positions as much as what we maybe could have done.
Yeah, no, 100%. And we see that Nick sometimes rests up forward when he's got a tag, but you're right. Like, he nearly won pretty much 2 Brownlows as a halfback flanker. Well, maybe not so much last year, but that first year, or second year was a halfback flanker in 2023 sort of thing. And then what he was able to do there. And
his absolute strength is his overlap running.
Yeah.
He is a powerful runner.
God, he's so quick.
And look, Josh is the same in a lot of ways. His strength is not his ability to win it in tight.
100%.
When you come into finals and it gets tighter and the bodies get bigger and stronger, and his ability to get in and out is better than most. So you're still going to need him there at times. There's no question about that. But, free him up so that he's got more energy. He's not hitting as many bodies. And when he does go in, he's got more energy to burn. Because if you're starting him there in the first quarter and he's getting bashed around, you got less energy to burn throughout the rest of the game. If he's starting in a position where he's not going to get knocked around as much and he's just running rather than hitting bodies, then, I reckon that could be a strong move for the club.
It could be almost like a ace up your sleeve, really. Even like Josh going into the middle. And I think, like I just mentioned, the ability to have a 2-time All-Australian halfback flanker in Dan Houston there to protect. It's not like last year where we didn't have someone to protect that halfback line. We got Houston there. We got Perryman there as well. So that's why we recruit these guys to try new things. And look, maybe this is what they're sort of working on. But I agree. I love Nick running off the halfback line. And, I think your mate Kane Corns was saying, like, are some of these guys playing for individuality other than team?
No, that was honestly the most
stupidest thing I've ever heard in my life.
Like, he's just reaching for headlines all the time. I mean, you cannot even comment on what's going on the inside in terms of player management and injuries and things like that, because unless you're the strength and conditioning coach, unless you're reading their blood tests, how the hell would you know who needs to rest and who doesn't? You're not making it. It's just ridiculous. Yeah. Like, I mean, and the other thing is, he said, "Well, Crispy, he's going for records." Well, he's already got the record. He doesn't need. No one's going to break that record in the history of ever in the AFL. So if he ever needs a rest, now is the time to do it. He's got the record. Like, So these guys are selfless. If you look, I went into the inner sanctum back when Bucks was coaching, and how they spoke about Jamie, because I know Jamie Elliott was one of those that Kane said should be having a rest. Oh, he's going for all Australians and goal kicking records. Come on, give us a spell. He is probably the most unselfish or selfless player that we've seen nearly at the Collingwood Footy Club. And you think about the last 5 years and how much pressure, tackle pressure he's put on the opposition, his ability to go and block for Mason Cox in games and other taller players, and my check to go for their marks inside 50. He's happy to do whatever it takes in a selfless manner to make sure they get the most out of their forward line group. And he's been the director of selflessness in that forward line. And for him to say that he's going for records is ridiculous.
It's just, we know Kane loves debate. And the thing I like about, I can't remember what show it was on, Agenda Setters or one of the 1,000 shows that he's on, is that there is someone there now to hit him across the head and say, no, mate, like that's not it. Like I think it was Nick Rewalt that was like, no, Jamie Elliott has missed 2 seasons of football in the last, 6 or so years. Yeah. He's finally got continuity. Why would you want to stop that? It's just, you're right.
I think sometimes he's got an agenda. Like he's got an agenda. He's Collingwood sells. He's looking for clickbait. I get disappointed. He's throwing something at a team that's sitting a game and a half up. He's looking for something off the Collingwood Footy Club from a negative perspective. When he's got his old mates running around at Port Adelaide, I know they won on the weekend, but you've seen the week before with Jason Horne-Francis. Yeah. These guys, that's his bum chum, and he never says a bad word about him. He is the laziest midfielder. He runs 35 Ks an hour forward of the play offensively, and he runs about 15 Ks an hour defensively. So if you've got someone to have a crack at your mate Jason Horne-Francis, who's as lazy as lazy. I know he won the game from him on the weekend, but he's all good when the ball's coming your way. What are you doing when the ball's not in your hands? Look at the Port Adelaide guys. They are the biggest front runners of all time. Yeah, and that's where they're sitting. Yeah. Where they're sitting the way they're classic downhill skiers. Yeah, that's what they are. And he says nothing about it. Of course not. That's just because his brother's at the club, and it's just a little bit weird, Kane Corns. But before we get agenda-driven media. Before we get too fired up, let's have a bit of a settler. Scott Pendlebury plays half the game. You mentioned him earlier. He comes on and just incredible. Like, we know what Scott Pendlebury can do. Absolutely incredible. Geez, he looks good fresh, doesn't he? Well, that's the big question. Like, so there's two ways to look at it, isn't there? Exactly, yeah. Should he have started the game and maybe we weren't in that position? Or, do what you're doing. You're managing him. He's 37 years. I'm 33 next week. And to think that he's 37, I went to the gym this morning. I'm wrecked. To be 37 and playing the way he's playing. There's still one Collingwood player out there that I've played with. And not only played with, but played 3 seasons with him. That's nuts, look at me sitting here all old and grey with a bung arm. And I actually played with a current player still playing the game. That is unbelievable. That's wild. So you're probably best to comment on it. What do you think? How's he doing what he's doing? And is there a way... would you have done something different with him against the game on Gold Coast? Oh, I think they've come a long way with player management. They're looking they spoke about how many minutes they're trying to get into each player throughout the year. Some players are different than others, obviously, and but management has worked for them to get them in the position they're in. They have to continue it right through to the end. There's got to be probably a stage where they pull back and go, you know what, we need our best side to be settled for the last few games in finals. I think they need to get to that. At some stage, but it's probably still a touch early. I mean, you could say a lot of things. Maybe if he plays early, he gets banged up a little bit early and he doesn't touch a footy in the first quarter and he loses his confidence. Who knows what's going to happen? Exactly. You don't know. We might have been in a worse position, but whatever they did, it still worked in the second half. So you can't say that it was a good or a bad move. It's impossible to judge. I think at the end of the day, they're still, managing players really well, and they're still a game and a half clear on top of the ladder. So it holds them in good stead coming into latter half of the year and finals. There's going to be some other teams. Like even coaching at local at the moment, I'm losing players, getting players back, and injuries have really hurt us at the moment. And if I had 2 extra players to use, probably would have in certain games, probably would have won a couple of extra games. So that is how important it is. If players start to drop off and get injured at the wrong time, it could really cost you games of footy at the wrong time and more so finals games. So the management is absolutely critical. I think they've got to continue it right to about round 20-ish and then start to settle
play
it.
your full team and going through.
Mm.
Look, we'll talk about the Fremantle game in a second, but I want to close off this Gold Coast game by hitting you with some trivia. Now, 20 years ago, 2005, pretty much to the day, you played against the Brisbane Lions. So it was July 9, 2005. So 20 years prior to the Gold Coast game, which was on 11th of July, in a goalless first half against the Lions. We absolutely got smashed. Do you remember anything?
I actually don't even remember that. I remember the game, but I can't remember the fact that we didn't kick a goal.
7 points in the first half.
Yeah, that's crazy, isn't it? 7 points. It does ring a bell. It's sort of slowly coming back to me. I do have a bit of early onset Alzheimer's from the concussions that I've had, I must admit. But look, I remember them being pretty strong right up until 2005 Brisbane, and then 2006. That next year we got them, and I remember thinking, "Thank God they're done. Finally, I think these guys are done, and we're going to keep sailing and here and go again." But I can't remember that Brisbane game. Like, it's a bit of a blur, to be honest. Most games are blurs. So you just remember just bits and pieces of each game. When you go and watch them play them, sometimes you go, I can't remember doing that. But because you play a lot of games, in your career, and talking about juniors and then AFL and then even at local, there's so many games. But the next year, in 2006, we play. I remember playing against them because obviously, the Brisbane guys used to get stuck into me like you wouldn't believe. I think they saw me as a bit of an antagonist, and they wanted to get on top of me before I got into them. So I always had, like the Scott brothers and, Voss and Lepich and all these guys were always on top of me, and I felt like, the pressure when we played Brisbane a lot. But I remember that 2006 game. I remember being in front, and I remember looking around, they've got a few new blokes that weren't quite up to it. A couple of their older players are playing pretty ordinary footy, Voss being one of them. And I just remember saying, Voss, see you, mate. You guys are done. Because he'd been sledging me brilliantly for years and getting the best of me. And then I just said, see you, buddy. Your time's up. It's all over. And he didn't like it too much, a big fella. But that was probably the end of that sort of Brisbane era.
That era, It's I just thought it was really wild. I don't even know why I sort of checked it up, but to think that it was pretty much 20 years ago to the day that Collingwood had one of their lowest scores ever in the first half was just wild. Now, let's look at the Fremantle game that's coming up this week. On the sort of not really grapevine, but there could be up to 4 or something changes. So we're looking at Lipinski, Mychek coming straight back in. Bo McCreary looks incredible at training. That guy, he just looks just fresh. He is bursting out he was training with the mids, bursting out of the middle, just elusive as anything. Billy Frampton might come up as well, which is big because last week he was touted as being still 2 to 3 weeks away. And he looks like he's going to come up. Bobby Hill's got a bit of a question mark, but he's fully training and he looks great at training too. So we're happy that he's back. But Fremantle get a win over the Hawks, who admittedly aren't travelling too well at the moment, but it's a huge game, albeit on a Sunday.
They've won 7 out of 8. Fremantle coming into this game. I know they got done to Sydney, who are starting to hit their straps a little bit of late, and that was away. But they've you look back, they beat Suns up there, 9-point win. They beat up there. They beat Giants away on that small ground. So they're actually in some ripping condition. They're very hard. I think they're second or third least scores against at the moment. So defensively, they're really as good as anyone. So, mate, this is going to be a tough game, and I reckon it's going to be one of those, a bit of a war of attrition. You know, they're just going to try and restrict us as much as they can, and I think we'll win it. But this ain't going to be easy.
No.
This is going to be a tough game, and they'll see this as if we win this, beat Collingwood on the MCG. That's 8 out of 9 games, and we're coming, and then they become the real deal overnight.
Yeah. And like there's been a lot of talk about Fremantle all year. Like I had them. We talked about it a few weeks ago. I had them top 4 going into this season. They're a bloody good side, and you know now that
I had them 4th as well.
You had them top 4 as well, yeah. And now that Darcy and Jackson are really working well in tandem, like there was a bit of, you know, it was a bit how's it going for a long time. Now they've got those 3 tools up the front.
Darcy's fitter now. He's starting to get a bit of momentum into his game, consistency and continuity.
And they've got those, now they've got 5 tools that if without Jeremy Howe, you really need Billy Frampton to
We've got
come
Tracy
in.
up there as well as a gun. Mate, that's a good side that they've got going. They obviously, you know, the midfield, you know, with Sarong and the likes, and mate, they're just looking ominous at the moment. And I might even go in and have a bit of a squiz at this. This 100%. Is the Brodie Holland Cup this weekend.
Yeah, true.
Or Paul Medhurst Cup or Jimmy Clement Cup.
Clement.
There's a few that have come across. Brownie as well.
Kind of Chris Tarrant as well.
Chris Tarrant as well. Yeah, there's heaps. There's actually heaps. All right, so it's probably a few better players than me, actually. Probably don't call it the Brodie Holland Cup. But no, I'm looking forward to that game, and I might even sneak down and watch my only second or third game for the year. So that's exciting.
Where do you think that we can get them on? Like we'll have all those players back, so we're starting to get our best 23. Yeah. Fit and firing. And like, look, we weren't far off the Gold Coast game. Yeah. I think at our best, this is one of the games where you want to put your foot down. We're back at the MCG. We've got a run of 4 or so games at the G coming up or something crazy like that. This is the game where you need to really stamp your authority with the players that we're going to get back. You've got no excuse. You can't hide behind anything at the MCG.
Yeah. I think our front half pressure is going to be absolute key. They're very good at holding the ball off the upper kick mark, going backward to centre, tempo, control of footy, taking the energy and the confidence away from the opposition by controlling the footy. And then once the ball's in their front half, then they move the ball a bit quicker and go to their tools to position. And they like to go long to position and lock the ball in. Fremantle as much as they can and play that territory game. So a little bit harder to play. I know the ground over there is a big ground, but MCG's bigger again, and we play well on that ground. It's we just our forward line pressure has been critical. In the emergence of Collingwood being on top of the ladder at the moment, it needs to be at its optimum again this week. So when we roll in our front half or inside forward 50, we need to roll numbers in and equalise and make sure that ball stays in there and the pressure's sound, the frontal pressure's sound. That's going to be, and when they win the ball back, is making sure they can't use it quickly on the way back through. But I think the way they play should suit us too, because if we can we cause delay, which means we defend well and cause them to go long down the line. That's the game that we're starting to play and playing that game quite well, and we actually seal off and allow Darcy or Cox, or Darcy Cameron or Cox or whoever it might be to be able to get arms free in the context and take some nice marks. So they're going to have to move the ball off the line a little bit more than they normally would, and maybe get us running and defending the fast ball movement, I think. So it'll be an interesting game. I think Fremantle will want to see a scoreline of about 70 to 60.
Want to keep it
They want time in possession. They want over 50% time in possession to us 40. That type of scenario. We're going to want to probably keep the ball live, knock it on, keep the ball in live play.
How we do our best work.
Yeah, keep it a little bit more kamikaze.
Yep.
I think that's how we're going to want it. And we'll, at the start of each quarter, just move the ball quickly and keep it live and just test their defensive skills in live play.
And that's kind of what we saw earlier this season when we played Fremantle up at Optus. They got a hold of us at the start of the game.
Yep.
Then we really came back, and you guys remember that's the Lockie Schultz concussion game.
That's right.
So that's
Fremantle had really poor form leading into our game, if you remember. They got smashed. I can't remember who it was. They got smashed the week before.
St Kilda.
Yeah,
St Kilda
smashed the week
smashed them.
before, and then they
Yeah.
came back home, and everyone's going, "Oh, Fremantle, no chance." And we were actually,
Yeah,
they were
you're
huge
right.
odds, and they
You're
they
right.
played quite well
Yep.
to keep themselves in the game for as long as they did. Fremantle, but no one rated them a chance. Whereas this time around, it's different. I know they're coming over this way, but they're in ripping
They're in
form
good
with
form.
winning 7 out of the last 8 and really been quite restrictive of opposition scores.
Well, I think you make a good point with the forward half sort of stuff, and I think that's where we've really lowered our colours the last few weeks, not because of anyone's fault, but injuries. And now if we can, get Bo back with Lockie Schultz coming back, who had a great game
Bo's huge, isn't
last
he?
week.
Yeah,
Bo
for
is,
us.
we talked about injection of speed into the middle, and for putting Josh or Nick or whoever it may be. When Bo pinch hits in the middle, because he's almost Dane Swan like, just quicker, bigger at that big body, can shrug off a tackle and then just get
Well,
you
if he's
on
in
that
any
over.
other team, he's probably a midfielder.
Yep.
Most other teams, like you'd probably say, 15 of the 18 teams, he's your first starting midfielder. Obviously, we've got a lot of depth in there at the moment. Plus, he plays a half forward so bloody well.
He can
kick a goal. He rolls up. He's sacrificial. You need sacrificial players in those roles. It can be those days. I used to call it the desert playing at half forward because you could go 3 quarters without even touching the footy. And then if it might be a day you just kick 2 goals in 5 minutes and you help win the game or whatever. That's the life of a half forward. And some days you don't touch the ball, but you might have 6 or 7 tackles, which are really important. And if you don't have that pressure part to your game, you just don't. Some games you don't influence at all. And he's able to influence games just through his tackle pressure and his sacrificial acts.
Yeah, and to have that Lockie Schultz, Jamie Elliott doing Jamie Elliott things, I think we start getting the game back on our terms. I think we have to put a fork in winning clearances.
Yeah.
Anytime soon. Like that's just we're just not a clearance team. And I look back at that Gold Coast game, and as much as we've given Ned Long his plaudits, and mate, he's done incredible this year. Had 0 clearances on the weekend.
Yeah.
If you're in the midfield, you want a couple of clearances out.
Tom Mitchell had 0 in the first clearance in the first quarter too. So those 2 guys are rolling around together.
Yeah.
That can happen though in footy. You have those off nights, and I mean that's probably a question I wouldn't mind even asking you. Like you probably had Mitchell, Still Sullivan, who probably had a couple of nice moments, but is he doing enough? I know it's a tricky role. He's playing more of a forward role, isn't he? At the moment, trying to cover for the guys that are out. And he's probably that's a little touch foreign to him. He's a midfielder. Cox, where's he at? Ned Long, obviously they're probably the main ones to, are they going to keep their spot in the side, do you think? I know Mitchell's been averaging good possessions, but he's only had 4 clearances and 0 in the first quarter when the game was hot and quick.
That's the key word, isn't it? Quick. When it comes to Mitchell, like I still think, and I'll probably take this this opinion to my grave, but I still think there is a Long and Mitchell opportunity in the game. In the team, sorry, but not at the first centre bounce. Like not at a centre bounce, like straight up.
I'm interested to know. Like I think Pendlebury is better off starting, obviously, and then maybe Mitchell is off the bench type player, and he comes in fresh in the second half as a clearance player. Because he got better as his fitness
the game went on.
The game starts to slow down a little bit, and because he's so fit and so smart, he just gets better as the game goes on. But the game's so quick now. The game's changed. Even since he probably played last year, it's gotten even quicker again. And he's not getting any. He's never been quick. He's never going to be a quick player. But is he better suited when the sting is slightly out of the game, and he can come in fresh and hit bodies and get his clearances and go to work?
I think that's the great idea. Like I really feel like this. My sort of theory is in these next few games and pretty much all this year, we've been using the sub as have a rest. Have a rest. Pendlebury, whoever it may be, I think towards the end of the year and come finals, I think obviously it's going to be less resting and more like, all right, you can give us 50% of your absolute best, like Tom Mitchell, for example.
Well, it could even be that, at round 20 when you stop your play management scenario, you start to settle your subs. I mean, you can't have a sub every week because you start to lose match conditioning as well. So you got to be conscious of that.
Yeah.
But maybe it is a Long and a Mitchell that sort of share the sub role potentially. The only thing is it depends on what you want and who you're playing as well. Because I like the sub role to be someone who's quick and great in the air and gives you a little bit of excitement when you need it. So because they do have a lot of, like, if Pendlebury's in there, side bottoms in there, Long, Mitchell, got the Daicos brothers still in. There's a lot of midfield options as well. Maybe they can keep those guys fresh in game and then bring someone quicker, a burst player. So there's some different ways you can go about it, but maybe it's horses for courses depending on who you play in any given week.
Yeah, and I think you make a good point there about, you want your sub to be someone that's sort of exciting. I just don't think Collingwood have that exciting player that could be the sub. A couple of years ago, it was Ginnivan. He was doing a really good job towards that end of 2023 where, you need a player who's a little bit, we know what we
can bring
Ginnivan
Bobby
is.
in first game back as a sub.
That could if they're not going to put him through the VFL and you don't want soft tissue injuries, that's probably what they're going to have to do.
And even McCreary first game back, he could be good. He'd be an exciting sub, but you want him on.
But you want him on for the whole sort of game.
Well.
That's what I mean. Like,
Will Hayes eventually probably makes a good sub.
That's actually a good point. Like, give him a year or so. Will Hayes could be that. Maybe not that Ginnivan smart arsery, but that sort of exciting player because we know what he can do.
Yeah.
And you just need an injection, just a bit of an injection of speed. And
when everyone comes back, you got Lipinski, you got McCreary, you got Bobby Hill, you got Schultz, you got Mychek, you've got Membry, you've got McStay, you potentially got Cox. How do we feel? And then you've still got the guys like you've got Will Hoskinelli's playing down there and Lockie Sullivan's down there, and still there's 11 players that we just spoken about trying to fit in a front six.
It's nuts. It's nuts. And Duggowie as well. Like when he comes back.
We assume he play predominantly forward when he gets started.
And that's where he does his best work. Like I love Duggowie as a midfielder, but he does his best work in the forward line. Like I think we talked about it all that long ago about Dangerfield's game in that last quarter.
Yeah.
That's what the goalie should be doing. Maybe not.
Is it getting harder and harder for him to get in at the moment? Like he's a long time out of. I don't care how good you are. It's not like he's like a Nick Rewalt or a Shane Crawford. I'm going way back now in my era. But they're elite athletes, and they're those guys that they're just they get bored and they go for a 20K run. They're not. He's not that type of player. He's a power athlete, and that's. Could be a good sub player as well. Maybe that's where they.
Maybe that's the excitement machine.
Well, there it goes. We've found it. We found it.
We've just cracked. You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. The goalie could be that guy that changes the game, kicks 3 goals in the second half.
Because then you'd probably only need a game or two at VFL level at most. You could probably nearly even bring him in. If he's had a good block of running, you can probably nearly bring him straight away.
As that sub.
As a sub,
Far out. That could be it. That could be the secret sauce.
Could be. Let's see.
Well, hopefully he actually looked really good at training on Tuesday. Main training Thursday today, so we'll see how that plays out. But
doing full sessions at the moment.
Full sessions, yeah. So back from the concussion, doing a full sesh. He didn't.
So that concussion maybe have been a bit of a blessing in disguise.
Get him off his foot.
They weren't rushing him back, but just giving him another couple of weeks to absolutely perfect the body and get things on track, do you think?
Yeah, and he's missed the September. We know that. Like his clearance work, his disposal work, his pressure acts all go up when in playing finals. He is the standard for a finals player.
And that's the thing when you look at Long and Mitchell, they're midfielders, aren't they? Like you need flexibility with the way you play. Like if something's not working, if Ned Logg's not playing well or Mitchell's not playing well, where do you go? I know Mitchell's played forward before, but with the game's changed now, your front six have to be quick. Your medium to small players have to be super quick.
Yeah.
So he's probably not going to play in that position. I wouldn't have thought. Whereas Duggowie can go inside. That's not working. You could throw him, to half forward, and you can bring him off the bench if you need to as well,
and rest him as a deep forward.
He can impact off the bench. Yeah,
if you really have to.
Yeah, that's right.
I've got a couple of questions from submitted from fans. What I got for you? So there's a lot about Long and Mitchell that we were talking about. Okay.
I'm getting about 3 questions asking about Josh Daicos.
Oh, that's-
that is just the on-trend flavour of the minute, isn't it?
Yeah, I've got heaps,
Josh
heaps
Daicos
of
play
those.
more midfield time. Josh Daicos.
I've got Georgina asking, would we rather finish second and play Adelaide at the MCG than finish first and potentially play Geelong in a prelim? What would your ideal first week of finals be?
I don't think it matters. We just got to back ourselves in to beat. I think we can beat Geelong on the MCG. To be honest with you, everyone's rating Geelong. I think Geelong are backyard bullies. I think they're the 4th to 8th best team at best.
Interesting. Okay.
I don't think they're in the top. Maybe 4th, but maybe even 5th to 8th. They fit in that bottom because they play in GMHBA. Look who they played there. They've played all the interstate teams there. GMHBA.
Yeah.
I think they played North Melbourne down there, and or one of the bottom 2 of the bottom 3 teams, but possibly they've played down there as well. So they're always going to win those games. I mean, they've won something like 50 out of the last 57 games down there, or something crazy like that. They did beat Collingwood on the MCG. We weren't going quite as well.
Yeah.
We were absolutely stooged by the umpires that night without being completely biased, but that was horrendous.
That was the night David King came out and had a whack.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that was
his head.
probably the one game I can honestly say we got stooged by the umpires. And I don't know, like if you can contain Dangerfield, some of these, other guys, I'm not sure if they play the MCG that well. Stewart and Dangerfield, hold them to, and you've won the game.
Well, that's exactly why Geelong are that good, because they're the only Victorian side with a genuine home deck.
Yeah,
like no one else plays at
no, that's right.
We don't play there. Like you know what I mean? Like We're
talking about home ground advantage. Like I remember coming across from Fremantle. I played my first game there. It was impossible to win there because you're travelling all the way from WA all the way, and then you get on the bus, which usually takes an hour and a half.
Yeah,
it takes like 2.25 hours on one of those big buses. By the time you put all your gear in, it's a horrendous trip. And you get down there and it's like -2 degrees, and you just go, you just don't want to be there. Like. And then the Geelong crowd's just different. The ground's different. It's skinny. It's long. You kick the ball out of bounds. Go, hang on a minute, that was a perfect kick, and I've hit the bloke on the tit, but he's out of bounds when he's taken it, because it's really hard to judge the width of the ground. So, and they just play it so well, and they run the line so well. So, I don't want to spend too much time on Geelong, but I don't rate them as much as what anyone else does. So I still rate them, but not as much as anyone else.
This isn't a question, but Thoughts Are Reality says, My mum and brother named me Brody after Brody Holland. I've always wanted to tell him. So that's for Brody.
Thank you.
There
Thank you. I'm glad someone named me after their kid rather than their dog.
That's what I thought
usually
that was
a dog.
Usually the dog, yeah. RBZ, this is actually a good question. RBZ228 says, what role does Will Hoskin-Elliott have to play come September? He had a pretty down game, like probably one of his worst games for the club, in my opinion.
Yeah.
But he did have to go in the back line and cover for
I think
Jeremy
he's
Howe.
a spare parts man, isn't he? He's a bit of a utility. So I think a good thing about Will Hoskin-Elliott, he can play in multiple positions. He seemed to, in the last few years, when you assume that he'd probably drop off, even last year had a really good year when other guys were performing horribly. So he's one of those who just pop up in any position and play the role, and he understands most roles. So that's the one good thing. But as you know, as he gets tight, as the selection gets tight, as we get players back, it's going to be really interesting. Is he one of those guys that you have to have a chat about?
Yeah.
It just depends down back what we've got, because he can play half back and play it well as well, and he's an interceptor. But he hasn't played there as much this year. But it will be interesting to see what they do.
And that leads you on a good segue into the next question by D. Harbrow. And the final question: we are light in defender depth. Should we worry? Who would you swing back if required?
Well, I think Hoskin-Elliott maybe goes back for Howe this week, but if Frampton plays, I hope that he's ready to go. Maybe he goes back. Maybe they need both of those guys back, because a bit of experience back there is going to be important. And you can go short for only a certain period of time, but if you've got to play at least 3 finals to win a grand final, you're going to come up against maybe an Adelaide or a Fremantle with 3 genuine tools.
Yeah.
One of them will get hold of you in a final.
100%.
One of them will get hold of you. You can't have Will Hoskin-Elliott running around on Fogarty or one of those guys, or even Jeremy Howe on a Fogarty, because it's just too big. You know, you probably have to roll one of your big boys onto that player. So I know they've done it well all year, but like Tracy and these guys, they're 6'5" and they can take big marks at the highest point. So it can come unstuck, can't it? Yeah.
That's probably the only thing that sort of scares me going forward. And we've seen what we look like without Billy Frampton.
Yeah.
And obviously with no Reef with that ACL, Charlie Dean, you maybe if you want to really give him another go, you could. But again, it's not a tall guy, not a big body.
Yeah.
Not a big body to play on those. You really need Billy Frampton, and hopefully, we sit here and say, hopefully when they're not rushing him back, they know. They're not going to rush him back in round 19.
Seems like they've done really well, bring guys off, have 3 or 4 weeks out or whatever, and then bring them back in. They don't look like they miss a beat, do they? It's kind of like...
Well, look at Lockie Schultz. Had a hamstring for 5 weeks, and he came on the ground and was running on top of it.
Yeah. So I don't know what the fitness guys are doing down there, but they're managing players well. I know we had some injuries, but we seem to be at least managing them well enough that they can come back and they're fit and they can impact straight away. So, and that was always the hardest thing, and especially when you got limited rotations, it's more of an endurance game, speed and endurance, but more of endurance than anything based on the limited rotations. It should be harder than ever to come back and impact when you have time out, but these players seem to be doing it and doing it well.
Jared Wade, and if we can have a chat with him, he is just incredible. If not the best fitness gurus in the whole AFL.
Let's get him in. Let's headlock him and get him in and find out what he's doing.
We're gonna get him. Dutchy, any final thoughts before we wrap up?
I think that's it for me, mate. I don't know if I had anything else on my notes, did I? I just looking forward to the Jimmy Clement game, Chris Tarrant, Paul Medhurst, Brodie Holland, Lee Brown. Is there anyone else?
Lockie Schultz.
Lockie Schultz game on the weekend. So that should be good. We'll probably miss 1 or 2 players in that too, potentially. But big game, big. It's going to be a bit of a defensive arm wrestle this week. So, if you don't bet on the 160 plus score, bet on the under 160. It'll be a lower scoring game than usual, but I think we'll get it done by 2 or 3 goals.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking as well. A couple of goals. We finally see Collingwood back to their best with a side that is starting to resemble what a final side would look like. Because then you have these 4 guys come back in. You'll say goodbye to a couple like a Sullivan and a Steele and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But we start looking how we will look in the last 6 weeks of the season, and just like that, we're gonna roll around to finals before we bloody know it. And
that's right.
We'll be wanting days like these back because it's going to get incredibly insane towards the end of the year.
It's going to get big, and we're just going to get bigger, and our viewers are going to go through the roof.
Let's go! We've got some exciting things. Oh, actually, that's another thing. We've got an exciting thing coming up next week. The Australian-ranked #1 boxer, Michael Zarafa, big Collingwood guy, coming on next week to have a chat. Because he's got some big bouts coming up.
He does.
I don't know much about boxing, but I know that I don't want to be
I don't know much about boxing, and I can't box either at all. I've proven that already. We can talk about that next week, how bad of a boxer I am.
100%, mate. So that's going to be... So tune in next week. Every Thursday morning, this will be out everywhere you get your podcasts, on YouTube as well. Dutchy, thanks so much, mate.
Thanks, legend.
Done. Let's go.
See you next week.
Go Pies.
Mew.